When a photographer is talking about color cast, what they're talking about is that the photograph looks like it's been shot with a different light, or there's an overriding color in the image. Now, the first thing that we're going to have a look at today is desaturate. We're then going to move on to a concept called white point or gray point, and then we're going to look at removing the color cast in Photoshop. So let's start with desaturate. The very first thing that I see here is it looks kind of brown. It's called sepia. Now I'm going to make a duplicate layer by pressing Ctrl and J, and then Ctrl U. I'm going to take the saturation down to there. So we can see that before it was sort of brown or sepia, and now it's just grey. The other thing that we can do is we can add a color cast. So we might just press X to bring the red to the fore, Ctrl Shift N for new. That's fine as a layer name, but I might just call it color. OK, and press the bucket so we have that. And down here, what I'll do is just write color. Still, that looks a bit extreme. We might want to dial that back. The other thing we can do is screen. And what screen does, slightly different. You can see at this end, it's a bit like the sepia job that we had down here. And at the other end, what it's done is all of the black information here has been turned red. It's an interesting effect. At any rate, we're going to get rid of that. Goodbye. No. Now we're going to open up white point. Now before we start on white point, what I might point out, you probably know this already, is that inside an image, we're just going to take this bit here, Ctrl J to make a duplicate from the selection, zoom into this area. I'm going to auto adjust the levels in there, and you can see a wide variety of colours. You can't really make them out here, but when you apply that adjustment, you can see that if we sampled from here, it'd be pink. If we sampled from here, it would be blue. Why is that important? Well, let's have a look at the same thing, but we're going to go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. So now, I'm just going to blur this into one blob of a color. Ctrl J, E, Ctrl J, E, Ctrl J, E, Ctrl J, E. Okay, so now we have this color. We can see on the outskirts of the color all these artifacts, but what we really want to know is this color in the middle. So I'm just going to grab that there. And because we don't want to change the image, a little trick you can do is double click on the word background. Okay. Now, move this down here, and then Ctrl E, bring it down. Okay. I'm going to go to a white point selection now, or a grey point selection rather. And how do you do that? What we need to do is to press Ctrl L, and that brings up the levels adjustment. Now, just cancel this for a moment. You'll see why in a minute. I'm going to press Ctrl J and then Ctrl L, so we'll bring this dialog up again. I'm going to set the grey point. What I'm telling it now is that this cream colour here, which I've chosen from the coffee cup, is in fact white. So that's what the image would look like if this coffee cup was white. And I'll click OK. You can click from other parts of there. Because we've blurred it, it's all pretty much the same. Okay, now what we're going to do is press C, crop to there, Enter, Control A, V, left, right, image, crop, Control D to deselect. We'll zoom in before, after. Maybe what we want to do is to reduce this effect a little. This looks a bit too cold for a cake. That one looks a bit too yellow. So maybe somewhere in between, so I'll dial back the opacity. That's not too bad. Control E to flatten that down. The other way that we can get rid of color cast is to go to Enhance, Auto Color Correction. And there, it's done it for us. I'll just get rid of this file and we'll move on to the next section. Remove color cast. This is similar to the last one. I'm just going to do something very quick you may not have thought of. Control J to duplicate the layer. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Make it nice and blurry. I'm going to choose this color in here. I use that dropper and I'm going to press Control Shift N. Color cast. K and left click. Now Control I inverts that. I'm going to take the blurry layer away, and on this layer I'm going to say color dodge. Before and after. And that's how we remove a color cast in quite an easy way that doesn't involve setting a white point. Also up here you can reduce the opacity of that. So this is before, that's after. You might want to dial it down for taste.